So from startup to scale up, the one thing that you do need, whether you're a startup or you're scaling up, is sales. And so hopefully this is a subject close to everybody's heart. So I'm the first person actually to use this clicker. I hope it's working. Very bright. So, growing your sales pipeline. Does that fill you with dread? Have you had enough coffee for the maths I'm about to throw at you? Buckle up. So, when sales are good, you are literally walking in the clouds. Things are great. The phone's ringing. The order book is bulging. Your accountant is your best friend. Life is great. You sleep like a baby. When it's not so good, it's a bit stormy. You avoid the call from the accountant. The order book is not bulging. You don't sleep so good. And you kind of find yourself wondering, where is that next deal actually going to come from? What if it doesn't come? What's going to happen to my business if I can't turn my sales around? I'm going to help you with that. But I'm sorry to say, I don't have any silver bullets. I haven't got a magic formula, but I have got a formula. So those of you that have got a notepad and pen, there's a few bits you might want to write down, but it is mathematical. So I hope you've had a few espressos. So what do I mean by a pipeline? Well, you've probably all got an idea in your own mind what you think I mean by a pipeline. So I'm going to start by defining it. It's all three of these things, okay? So a sales pipeline is a way of tracking your sale from lead to sale. So it's a simple way of tracking. It's also a way to provide clear and measurable metrics in your business. So things like, do you have a CRM? Do you use the CRM? A lot of people I meet have a CRM, but don't use it. But really, for me, it's all about the bottom one. It's all about having a pipeline that creates predictable revenue. Predictable. So that you can literally go and find that sale when you need it. And of course, you need to do it in a way that is on the customer timescales. But it's about predictability. So let's start with prospects. Who are they? Why and how are probably questions that you ask yourself all the time. So think about your business. Do you focus on inbound leads or do you focus on outbound leads? When does that lead first become aware of you and your business? I like to describe it in terms of buyer behavior, and I do need to turn around for this. So, when the buyer starts their journey, they become aware that they have a need. Now, the girls in the room, you're probably like me on a Saturday afternoon, you walk down the street, you find a nice pair of shoes. I have a need. I'm going in that shop and I'm going to try on those shoes and I'm probably going to buy them. That need probably takes me about 10 minutes to fulfill. That's an impulse purchase, but it still starts with a need. If you're buying a house at the moment or a car, a bit of a chunky purchase, then that's kind of a premeditated sale. That might take you a long time. It could take you 3-6 months to decide on buying a house, but you still start with being aware that you have a need. What then happens is all the businesses in the room have an opportunity. Their opportunity is to know the market. Know that that woman's walking down the road wanting a new pair of shoes. Know the market, know who's out there, and make sure that you build solutions that solve their problem. The next thing that happens is our buyer starts to research solutions. And at the point that they do that, your job in business is to be found. There's no point in having people out there looking for you if you can't be found. You need to be informative, you need to know your USPs, and the world of social media isn't going away, so you need to be where your customers are. The next thing that happens is they start evaluating alternatives, and there's usually quite a lineup at that stage. This is probably the first point when your customer makes contact with your business. Be it a phone call, an email, be it a walk-in, might just be browsing on your website, but they're there doing it. And at this point, it's actually not your sale to win, it's your sale to lose. Because if you don't do these things right, you've lost the sale without even knowing they were there. If your website doesn't work, or you don't answer the phone, or you don't reply to the voicemail. So when they're evaluating alternatives, We in business have to match the solution to the need. And we have to give a first-class sales experience. First class. Once then a purchase decision is made, the opportunity is to be easy to do business with. Don't make it difficult for people. Don't have an online shopping basket that falls over when you try to check out and put your credit card details in. Don't have a shop where the sales assistant's out the back texting and not there serving customers. You've got to make it easy. Then, of course, you go into the post-purchase evaluation stage. And there's still opportunities. There's opportunities for us to give a great service and to follow up. But it still doesn't end there, because our buyer is out there with your product and service, using it, talking about it. And they're either going to be talking positively or not so positively. What you need to know is how to use that feedback in a proactive way that you can benefit. And so I'm talking about case studies, maybe asking for referrals, introductions, that sort of thing. So that's the journey that a buyer goes through. And at every single stage, there's a responsibility for all of us in business to do our bit and maximize our opportunity. Everybody with me? This is the easy bit. This is the easy bit. Okay, so I'm not going to go into this, but one of the things I do with clients is it all starts with who this prospect is. I help clients to build a customer profile. We call it an avatar. We go through these stages of identifying the demographics, the goals, the values, the challenges. We really pinpoint who this person is that we're identifying as a lead. The key mistake I see in B2B is when people do this, they fill it out for a business. You don't sell to businesses, you sell to people. So if you're selling to the MD, it's the MD, his name, him as a person. That's the biggest bit of advice I can give you on profiling. So, how do your leads become aware of you? There's a whole plethora, love that word, whole plethora of ways that you can go after leads. Obviously, the top one is a hot topic at the minute. If you don't know about GDPR, you definitely need to. Wouldn't ever suggest anybody actually buys a cold list, but there are a huge number of ways that you can identify leads. But the important thing is what you then do with that lead. You've got to qualify the lead. So if you don't know what I mean by qualify, it's a simple sort of list of criteria. The most obvious being, can they pay? There might be a multitude of things that you want to ask your sales team. Don't call that person until you know that they can tick these list of criteria. Okay, and the important thing is, the more qualification that you do, the more likely that lead is to convert into a sale. So the hard work up front will eventually save you time and obviously make you money. So the sales journey. You've probably seen a number of different sales journeys. This is the most simple I could come up with for a slide. You have a lead, you qualify it, that person is then a prospect. That person is then worth your sales team spending time and energy and resource on trying to sell to that person. You then do your sales activity, you might give a demo or a trial, you make a proposal, be it verbal or written. You then hopefully close a sale. I've never met a 100% conversion salesperson in my life, so don't beat yourself up if you don't make the sale. That sold customer, then you go into a delivery phase where you're either delivering the product or the service. There's then some ongoing communication that needs to be done. And then, of course, it doesn't stop there. You're into upsell and cross-sell opportunity. So that's a simple sales journey. But we're here to talk about pipeline. So at some point, I'm going to need to put some numbers on this, okay? So, wakey, wakey. Here we go. This is the most simple pipeline example I could think of to share with you, and it's the most, well, it's all about social media, so it's something that everybody can do. You don't need a cold calling sales team to do this. We can all build our own pipeline using social media. So let me talk you through it. The first stage is we're going to identify 50 social media targets. These are people that we believe are not just leads, we've qualified them. These people tick a few boxes for us. We know that they should be our target market. We've identified them on social media. We might make a list of them. We might put them in a CRM. We might just have it on a notepad. You choose. But we know who these 50 people are. We're then going to do some sales activity. And it starts off quite gentle, because all we're going to look to do is engage these people on social media in the public space. Once we've done that, we're going to lose 10 of them because 10 of them aren't going to talk back. So we've now got 40. So we've converted 80% of them into the next stage of our pipeline. What we're then going to do is we're going to try and take these 40 targets, these 40 prospects, and we're going to carry on this sales activity, and we're going to try and take them into the direct message space of social media so that it's a private conversation. And still, there's no hard sales pitch. This is just conversation. But at this point, we're going to lose a lot more of them because not everybody's going to want to do that. It depends how much value we add with our conversation. But in this example, 16 of them start to engage with us on direct message form. And that's a 40% conversion of the 40 that we had. Then we're going to lose half of them because we're going to invite them to a face-to-face meeting, and 8 of them are going to turn us down. But 8 of them are going to meet us. And we're going to go and have a cup of coffee and talk about what we do and get to know them and do our, whatever your business's sales activity is. Then we're going to give some kind of a free trial, or we're going to talk about the product, let them touch it, feel it, whatever it is you sell. You're going to give them some experience of what you do. And that's a 75% conversion rate because we're going to turn 8 into 6. So we're going to lose 2 of them at that point. But then 100% of them are going to like it and say, tell me how much that is. I'm actually interested in that. And then right at the end, we're going to sell to 3 of them. So overall, we've converted at a 6% conversion rate of our original 50. And actually, now we've got some numbers, we can start to overlay that with another 50 prospects. Or we could go out and say, now I know it works with 50, what might it look like if I employ 3 people and I give them all 50? What about if I employ 10 people? What about if we could go for 500? What does my capacity plan look like? How do I make sure that this happens in my business? Because I know it can be done now because I've seen the numbers. So you've got to have a starting point. You've got to know it works. Prove the concept. Now I'm going to blow your head apart. Because if you have a team, you're going to have people performing at very different levels. So I'll draw your eye to the bottom of the page. On first sight, wouldn't we all want person D in our business? They work really, really hard. They make 100 calls. They really go for it. They put all the effort in. But actually, they only convert 5% of all the effort that they put in. And so when it comes to looking at their average order value and therefore the number of sales that they make, and you multiply the two together, person D is bringing into our business £2,500. But they're working really hard for that. 95 of all of their calls turn into nothing. Only 5 calls ever turn into a sale out of 100. So person D isn't the person that we want in our business. What we should be doing with person D is buddying him up with person C because he converts at 30%. He can make 40 calls and bring in £6,000, more than double what person D can bring in. So when we're managing a sales team, tracking a pipeline like this allows you to recognize who needs some training, who needs some coaching, who might need firing, who needs that extra level of support. But you've got to know the numbers to begin with. So that's how I work with clients on growing their ultimate, the people that they've got, but then also building a team for the future to be able to say, I'm going to make some upfront investment, but actually I can now start to predict what I'm going to get back for that investment. One of my little life mantras, you can't manage it if you can't measure it. So if you have a CRM, start to use it. Whatever it is you use, make sure that you're using it to measure the right things. And one of the biggest mistakes I see of the people that do measure lots of things, I say, what KPIs do you track? Yeah, I've got this list of 20. Aren't I good, Rachel? No, 20 is too many. I would say 3, 5 at an absolute push. Only measure the things that are really, really important. Otherwise, the KPIs you track start to drive behavior. And the more you try to measure it, the worse the behavior actually comes because people start to try to play to the rules rather than actually think about the customer. So, achieving this growth that we all crave. The first thing you need to do is set what your realistic, ideal pipeline would look like. In an ideal world, what would it look like? Map it out. Put it on the wall. Make it visible. Talk to the team about it. But make sure that you know that it's realistic. Can it be done? Have you seen it done? Set the goals. And then you've got to go out and actually do the work to measure how did we do versus our ideal. And plot that. And then look at the gaps. Where do the gaps exist? Are we really good at the front end of the sale, but we fall over at the back end? Are we really good at closing? We just don't talk to enough people? There's various things that go on in a sales pipeline or a sales business where once you start scratching around, you find opportunities to grow because you spot the things that aren't working. And then once you're aware of those things that aren't working, you put things in place to fix them. So I talked a little bit about what you might do with somebody who's not performing in their sales role in a way that you would like them to, and how you might fix that. And the reason that my business exists, and I am a startup, by the way, I'm in month 10. But the reason my business exists is because a lot of the time people recognize that there's a gap. They recognize that there's blockages. They recognize that there's obstacles in that sales pipeline. But because they're like me, they're a small business, they don't necessarily know how to fix that. So they come and find me and I talk to them about Aspire. So what Aspire is it's a consultative selling model. You'll see there's 6 stages, one for every letter of the word. Surprise, surprise. But it's not a linear process. You don't start at the beginning and work through it and finish at the end. You can dip in and out of it. It works for B2B and B2C sales. It works for field-based salespeople and telephone-based salespeople. And it's centered all around the customer. The sale happens at the I stage. The I for invite stands for invite to try, buy, or challenge. So it doesn't finish at I, because a sale should never finish where the money changes hands. Think about your businesses. What happens after the money changes hands? In my example that I've worked with clients on, we talk about relationship. We talk about how to really create a partnership with customers. And it still doesn't end there, because the evolve stage is then how you take that relationship even further. And that's where your upsell and your cross-sell opportunity is. So I talk about things like customer lifetime value. The longer a customer stays in your business, the more they will spend, the more loyal they will become. So if you're finishing that relationship when the money changes hands, you're missing all that opportunity. So for those of you that I know have worked with Aspire, hopefully you can share with some of your colleagues here in the room. It is a successful sales method. I am planning to write a book when I get time, but I'm very proud that I've built this based on my 20 years in business. So it's not textbook theory, it's real world theory. I know this stuff works. So, as a result of what you've learnt today, have I given you some ideas? I hope so. Didn't give you any Lego. Ollie called it nutritious learning. Not sure if I've done that. Maybe you can tell me in the coffee break if I have. But what are you going to do differently? Anything? Nothing? Some of you are already doing this, but fold your arms the way that you normally fold them. Everybody fold your arms. Quite comfy, isn't it? Try and do it the other way. Put the other arm over the top. That feels tricky. It works if you're a leg crosser as well. Can't believe I'm on the stage doing that in heels. But if you're going to try doing something different, do it in your sales department, because top-line revenue is what every business needs. You can't survive in business without top-line revenue. So if you do nothing different after today, make sure that it's something on sales. Okay? So, I talked about walking on fluffy clouds. Go and dance on them. Thank you very much for listening.